What's up, YouTube? Alright, let's talk today about crickets. A lot of people out there don't like the cost of crickets. I've been having to buy a lot this year, or back in 2021, just because of the barking tree frogs. And I still have those, and you can see right here. Some in there, there are some in here. There's not a whole lot in there. There's a few in this tank. Actually, there's quite a few. Most of them are tucked in. Let me get some lights on. Actually, timer's about to go off anyway. So, I'm Chris Church, and thank you for tuning in. Let's get to this. Phoenix, it's only about 75 in there. Oh shit. Is that? Oh, that was both of them. I forgot. This I don't have on a timer anymore. Or know where the switch is. We're going to be remodeling this in a couple days. Get rid of that matting. That was that moss matting, and I'm going to get rid of that, I believe. I don't like it. Pac-Man can't burrow in, but we're also going to put a divider is the plan. So this one can be in there. I don't know if there's too much glare on this, but he's got some white lines on his head. It's kind of cool. Or she. It. Where for temporary I've been keeping that green tree frog. Oh, don't want to take all your water, bud. And the Cuban tree frog, which is up in the back corner back there. You can see how they do, getting stuff all over the glass. A lot of humidity today. Plant lights I turn off every once in a while when I'm not in the room, basically. I just turned those lights on for these plants. There's the papaya right in the middle here. Very, very slow growth, but it's getting there. I just want to see some bark layers. Yeah, we'll get to that in time. So anyway, let's talk about this aquarium building for crickets. As you can see here, coconut fiber that needs more water. So we want to take an aquarium. We want to get a decent size. 10 gallons kind of tight, but it's not undoable because you can use egg cartons to actually make it more levels, and that radius of it actually increases by doing that. I do it, but not very many levels. Oh, you can see I pulled in my other halogens not so long ago. Yeah, I'm gonna set those up in different places until I do get LEDs. But I'm gonna see if it increases. Like, my crickets have no heat anywhere. The Pac-Man frog's starting to try to do his little hibernation thing. You notice there's no movement. Watch this. Watch this. Oh, I bumped the cage. But anyway, you see no movement? Now watch. You touch him and he wakes up. But you can see that layer of skin. Since I cleared some of the plants out in here, he moved over to this area, and I've just been watching him. You can see his skin drying out a little bit. He's just trying to protect himself for the winter. And actually, hold on, let's move this tank and find out what temperature the room is, because there's a thermometer in there keeping track of my humidity in that container as well. Alright, so let's get this open. I already popped it. Alright, so thermometer, it does look broke, but in the top here You can see it keeps track of an average for the last 24 hours. 67% humidity. There's a little bit of water in here with sphagnum moss. We got beetles here. Got a beetle there. We got a worm there. The rock is what I use to heat up and then keep the temperature elevated. We got a worm here. Look at how dark that one is. And he's probably gonna change. They're really cold, so let's toss him in the water too. Oh, actually, it looks like he doesn't need it. That thing looks pretty damn fat. So anyway, let's get back to this setting up an aquarium for crickets. And actually, we're already pretty close. So I put the aquarium over here on top of the others. These are my black crickets. We'll look at the crickets at the end. I'll get some light out and I'll show you the difference between what my dark ones that I'm breeding with trying to get a hybrid. I've got a couple variations. There's a reddish brown that's a very deep red. There's the brown ones. They all have that nice little stripe down their back. But anyway, it's gonna take longer. I think the reddish brown and ones like that came from the store-bought cricket female with a male of the dark deep brown cricket, and the ones that are a deep brown and have that line and have the striping, I think came from a female deep brown cricket and a male store-bought. So I have added a couple of my born crickets from this aquarium to this mix of those deep colored, because I'm trying to get a blend. Somewhere in there I'll find what I want. They also seem to be a little more robust than the store-bought. But there's the store-bought, pretty much ready to chirp away. That's why I want to give them some heat, so they'll start laying eggs again. Get a jump on this. We got 2 months of cold. It's only January now. There's at least 2 more months of cold. Yeah. Let's do this. EcoWorth. This is a triple pack. You can get any brand of coconut fiber you want. But I use this because I'm going to be growing plants in it as well that are for aquarium use. Alright, so you gotta get a nice blend. Anything that's chunky, you just break up as you put in. No biggie. We're gonna do this the speedy way by holding that. Okay. Doesn't have to be real super thick. Actually, I mean, you do use a good amount, but it's only like 2/3 of a block. So you got a block for other things. Like in my case, I'm gonna put it in the reptile tank behind me for the plants. I'm running out of coconut fiber for that. All right. So you got to figure out a water dish and a food dish situation. I recommend not having a huge food dish or a food dish that's hard to climb in, or technically not a water dish that's hard to climb in either, but it's a little different because I'm going to use sphagnum moss. Now, right now this soil is super damp, so I don't want to put a lot of food and trigger like a mite outbreak. If those come through mealworms or not, whatever situation that actually is. The other thing you don't want to do right now is put a bunch of the egg crate. You don't want to put a bunch of that in there right now. Anyway, you don't have to rough it up. They'll do that. They'll dry it out quite easily. Okay, so the water dish. I use the orchid moss, sphagnum moss. No fertilizers in this, nothing like that. Might be a little bit acidic, just because it's a moss. Don't know. I haven't really checked the pH. Haven't really worried about it. So anyway, that's not a big deal about where all this is. Okay, once the sphagnum moss absorbs your water, you want to make sure it's not hanging over the side. If it is hanging over the side and touching your substrate, then you will have some wicking that will go on, and you will notice significant difference in evaporation. Those of you that have used sphagnum, you'll find out you know how much it'll shrink in time. You can add to it later or do whatever the hell I've done here. I like to add in a little repti bark. Why do I do that? You see the moisture build up in the bottom of this bag? That is all moisture. That is like wet as crap bark. You can see humidity build up down in here. Why do I do this? Because the coconut fiber is going to evaporate really, really, really well. Especially if I put a light over it. A hot light. So, I want to sprinkle some of this in there. And, yeah. You don't want to put too much. You don't want to keep a high humidity. But I did in my first tank. Now I have in the second tank, and now I have somewhat in my third tank. And I'll worry about this one later for the most part. That'll help your little crickets hide, the ones that are really, really, really small. The other thing that's going to happen is from them trampling in here and all that, you are going to have your longer strands, where this is not coconut fiber, this is wood, but the coconut fiber strands that are long and thin like this will start to rise to the top, and that'll be a good place for your little crickets to hide as well. I mean, when they're super, super, super small, they're going to be all in that, and that's what protects them. It's kind of like egg crate, except smaller. So anyway, that's a rundown of what I do. Non-chlorine water. If you use tap water, leave it off for 24 hours. Let it evaporate the chlorine, then use it. You'll still retain a lot of your minerals and stuff like that, but your chlorine evaporates. If you are not comfortable with 24 hours, let it sit longer. Not a big deal. Oh, it's overflowing. I guess it's not a big deal. You can do that too. Force it to soak it up. I did it overflowed a little, but not a big deal. What is a big deal is this keeps your crickets from drowning. Also keeps your baby crickets, super small crickets that were too small to stick, or too small to even drink from a drop of water because they'll stick to it. It keeps them alive as well. The sphagnum moss will not prevent, like the acidic part of it will not prevent insects. Again, because of the grain mites, I've been putting pieces of fruit, pieces of whatever directly in the center of my sphagnum moss water dish, and that makes it so I can change and get rid of it super easy. The mites need moisture, and when all this dries up, yeah, that's going to be their source of food. You also want to do this. Put your food dish on the opposite end of the tank from the water source. The little grain mites only can survive about 2 weeks without moisture. They're quick, but they're small, so it's not really easy for them to traverse, the whole distance of your tank overnight or within a quick period of time. So everything kind of evens out where you don't have them, or you have a very small lack of them. The other thing I like to do, your orange peels. I do use these. I'm gonna have to get more of the Flukers orange cube. I take the orange cube, just like I said with the fruit. That'll give them some vitamin C, and that you can leave directly in the water dish. If you don't want to buy the Fluker cubes, again, just use store-bought fruit. You see me sweeping my floor with my socks. If you don't like the Fluker's cubes, just go get store-bought, like oranges or something. I find the oranges, they don't really mess with them in the beginning. They like for the outside layer to dry out, and then they'll drink through that. At least that's my observation. Putting in the water dish kind of helps it from completely drying out real quickly. You got evaporation constantly going on. If there's not a lot of airflow, you're gonna kind of have this little bubble of light humidity. It's a little more dense than the rest of the environment, but it's not significant. It's pretty negligible to us, but I believe that especially the baby crickets recognize that. I see it tends to seem like they hang around the water dish a little more, like fresh. So that's my take on the breeding crickets. As you can see, this is winter. Things are going slow. I hope for 2022 to be drastically different in regards to how many crickets I have. That's why I'm setting up another container now. Let's do this. Let's see if they reproduce a little. I don't have to use them all. I got so many, I'm gonna pull out dead ones and feed those to the dinosaur goby, because there's always dead crickets. And generally the feeding is the best place to find out who's gonna die, who's gonna survive. I don't do this for, it's almost like they engorge and like eat too much, but I feel like it's the ones that are already like, oh, look at that freaking spider. I feel like it's the ones that are already on their way out that end up dying. Oops, just serve that cricket. So that's all I do. You can put their home next to the water dish, whatever. But I recommend a high level of egg crate across the whole bottom. Lights seem to encourage these guys to grow quicker, much quicker because of the heat. I decided to kick the camera. So it's been about a week since the first half. It's 76, 111. I'm watching this a lot closer, lot closer. You can see how he's just outside of the beam of this beam being pretty much like right in here-ish for the center. Maybe a little lower. Anyway, yeah, so I pulled the cricket stuff out. I'm gonna add some coconut fiber here. You can see where the water made this bark, it looked a little darker. It doesn't feel any moisture. Carried in here. Yeah, so my dark crickets, see those. Keep talking about them. So these came from wild ones. The deep brown came from wild variant. Most of them have been fed off. You can see here, they are getting older very quickly. See their wings are already a little different. I think I do have a pure one. maybe not. I thought I would have a few, but I guess not, because this originally started with one female. You can see baby there. Real small one. There's another one. There's quite a few. And all these were pulled. 100%. All those have been pulled from in here. See how dark these guys are. Put the halogen, not for the UVB, but for the UVA heat. They seem to really try to soak that up. Plants pulled in. I've got to do something with that big pot right there. These are the store-boughts. I just put the whole bucket in here. Decided, I'll use half. They have been laying eggs, which is always nice. Still a good number that I'm probably gonna feed off here in the next few days, and I'll just add to it. So you'll get to see that with the frog video. Oh yes, in my testing, I've also been watching floor. When I pulled this in from outside, it was 40 degrees outside. Max today hit on my floor was 60 degrees. So that's an idea. I think the low last night was like 36-ish, something like that. Not really sure. Yeah, and so these are also just a few store-bought. I think there are a couple of mine in here, but you can see a difference in color between the store-bought. More of a tan brown, where I feel like most of these came out with a just different, not all of them. Like that one right there in the center, he looks pretty pure for where he came from, the group. Some of these others though don't look so. See the head of that one. Looks really dark. And his back leg. It's really, really, really dark. Anyway, hopefully these will repopulate for me in these other containers as well. I'm just gonna, when they get a little bigger, start separating them more. First half, I showed you the Pac-Man frog tank before the remodel. This is a remodel. This 75 watt was not powerful enough to keep him warm on the worst of nights. And even the past 24 hours here, 77 and 76 was the high. So, you see, I've actually left that light on. I know it's frowned upon, but it's 250 watts, and I know it does the job to keep him alive since I got him. That was the first light I had on him, in fact. This, I decided to put on the Pac-Man frogs. They were, this one started to shed. Had a thick coat come off of him. He's been burrowing in. This one is a hell of a lot younger. And because of the age, I felt like it needed some heat for its first winter. And we'll figure out the future. Now that I've started heat for its winter, I'll probably have to continue it, so the other Pac-Man will get to enjoy that rather than going through a winter and doing what he does for hibernating or whatever. Generally, days like this, I don't feed. Wait till he comes up to the 70s or upper 60s and my room hits the 70s. But food on cold nights is very important to cut back on, even for a bearded dragon. This one obviously hasn't been that big of a deal. I just spilled all my shit First I kicked the camera. Now I'm spilling shit. I'm not even gonna edit it out this time. I'm just gonna add this and say have a good evening. But anyway, so you can see we do feed him. He doesn't have that much. The other day he got a good sized meal. He's had bits and pieces. He had some orange the other day. You can see some banana in there right now. Some leftover Reptical food. We do not mix that with water. We just put the crunchy stuff in there. Plants. My plants are in need of some nutrition. So I'm adding some light soil, some clean soil that I think will fertilize all of these extremely well, not mattering what they will be. But we'll see how that works out. They definitely need fertilizer, especially stuff like this. This is a pomelo fruit. It sprouted up the other day, and I think it needs some actual food. So, you guys like, subscribe. I'll bring you updates on these as well as all the other animals, little by little. Yeah, I even decided I told Christy we need to put these in here because the door they were next to was having way too much draft come in, and I was afraid for their life. The female we have here is very, hold on a second. The female that shine on her. And then the male. He, evidently these have issues with their tails because they get so big. He's alive. He's just chilling. Watch. It wakes him up. He generally would come this way looking for food, but I think he wants no light whatsoever. That is a rose petal. Anyway, you can see those two. Christy wanted to read those. I said, sure, that's your ordeal, but I think we're gonna end up with so many youngins that we're gonna find out if they can survive in Florida waters that are a backyard pond. We'll see. As usual, you guys, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.